Welcome to Hello Chaos, a weekly podcast exploring the messy and chaotic lives and minds of founders, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Each week, I have the privilege to speak with founders and owners across the spectrum, founders from different industries at various stages, from startups to mature businesses of all shapes and sizes across every single industry. Our listeners hear the raw, the real, the unvarnished stories and viewpoints, getting incredible insights on what it takes to start and scale a business, to become a better founder, or a better owner, a CEO, or just a better business leader. Today on our show, we've got Travis Holzem. He is a water conservationist, I almost said conversationalist, conservationist and sustainability advocate and owner of Food Forest Design, Minnesota. Welcome, Travis. Welcome to the chaos.
Thank you for having me to your chaos.
Yes. Well, let's start like you got a whole big old resume. So start us out by telling our listeners, how did you start on your entrepreneurial journey? How did you start to basically start Food Forest Design?
Okay, I'll go way back. All right. I started, after high school, I went in the Marine Corps and, went to Desert Storm. I went in the Marine Corps because I didn't go to college for wrestling. I went into the Marine Corps and they have a wrestling team. So I'm like, hey, I can get on the Marine Corps wrestling team.
Yeah.
Well, instead, 9 months after boot camp, I find myself on a ship on the way over to Kuwait. So not a confused, 19.
You're like, oh, was this the plan?
Yeah, never heard of the word Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or Iraq before, because they don't teach that stuff in school. There's no reason to, really.
Right.
So find myself on the ship on the way to a war and got through that, came back, and I still got to wrestle in the Marine Corps afterwards, but just
a little detour. Well,
yeah, there was a little detour. And then I got out and got involved in the bar business as a bartender and ended up running bars, general manager and stuff like that.
Which, by the way, the service industry, restaurant, bar, prepares you for anything.
It's a different monster every
It is a different
day.
I waited tables to put myself through school, so I still use those skills.
Yes.
Today.
It's the easiest money you can make, but it can be the most stressful at times too.
That's right.
Dealing with people that are drinking is quite the adventure.
That's right.
But I did this for like 12 years. And when I was 27, I had my first kid, my son. So being in the bar business allowed me to stay home with my son during the day and raise him and then work at night. It was great to have my family help me out, my parents, and it was their first grandkid. So I didn't have to really call them to ask if they wanted to watch him. Yeah. They're like, can we watch him tonight? Do you have something to go do?
That's right.
And then I got married after that, had two more. And, but that allowed me to stay home during the day. And 1998, saving up my change from bartending, I'd throw all my change into a big jar. And after 6 months, I saved $1,000.
Whoa.
I was in a busy place, so it was really easy money.
Yeah. I could tell you stories of how much cash I cleared on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Football weekends in Indiana.
Can't say it too loud. IRS.
That's right. That's right.
So I bought my first computer and I wanted to be self-made. So I started designing websites in 1998. That's when Google was born.
That's right.
I started learning SEO, all that stuff in 98.
From the beginning, yeah. I was one of the first digital media buyers in 98, 99, yeah.
And so that was my career besides working in bars.
Right.
And then I had my kids, and then I got out of the bar business and kept doing my web development. And then I had a small office. And outside my office, I used to grow herbs and tomatoes and peppers outside my office.
Like your little salad.
Yeah, it was. I'd go out there every morning with my coffee and get a handful of whatever was growing and eat it, rosemary and basil and, like a hand sandwich.
That's
And
right.
when I was growing up too, my mother had a garden in the backyard, and I was always amazed at growing things, at how things would grow. So I got my own seeds because I used to love cantaloupe and melon and stuff like that. And instead of my mom buying it, I'm like, maybe I can grow this. So I
Yeah.
had her give me some seeds. I put it in the ground in her garden, and next thing you know, 3, 4 days later, you get this sprout coming out of the ground, and I was always fascinated with it. And then next thing you know, a few months later, I have cantaloupes all over the ground, and I got to eat them. So it was just, yeah, it just captured my attention, and
Yeah.
I knew when I got older, I wanted to have my own land, and I want to be able to grow all my own food. Still don't have my own land yet, but I do help people grow food.
Right. Right.
And and when I was younger, I could ride around my neighborhood on my bike and go get apples and peaches and pears and everything and plums because everybody had gardens in their yard. Everybody was
That's
growing
right.
food, and nobody does that anymore. So
Right.
I'm trying to get people to
It's like the
change their minds and get back.
homestead trend is like coming back. I grew up semi in an urban homestead. It's like my parents were total hippies. We had an acre garden. Our house was solar powered and wood. So as much as other than I think water and sewer, we lived off the grid as much as, but everything was, my mom ground her own wheat to make bread. There was like, my parents used to say, if it was a barcode, it was just was processed in plastic, and everything had to be very minimalist. To go in the grocery store, you only go around the outside aisles.
Yes.
You never go in the interior unless it's for like bulk baking products like sugar or flour or. But yeah, my mom would go to like the farm co-op to do like bulk shopping for oats and wheat,
Mhm.
and she would grind all that. Yeah, it was.
That's
So
awesome.
that was
Yeah.
what. That's how I. So no, but growing up in the '70s and '80s, not so much fun when you try to have kids, your friends come over and they look and they're like, what cereal do you have? My mom, like, my mom's made homemade granola. Or like the only cereal that she would buy would be like the jumbo bag of puffed
Mm.
wheat. Do you
Yeah.
remember that you could buy in
Mhm.
bulk? But non-sweetened. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. It was because we had a beehive. I mean, so we had our own honey.
You had everything.
We had everything except my dad refused to have chickens because he grew up in his childhood. He grew up in Kentucky on tobacco farms
Okay.
and he hated he was like, chickens are the grossest things. I'm never having a chicken. So that was, but they would barter with a dairy farmer. And so we would have basically unpasteurized milk come and deliver
Okay.
like fresh milk and eggs. And then, so it was like a total little barter system. But these were just neighborhoods. Like we lived maybe a mile from downtown in this little, teeny tiny mill town in North Carolina. And, my parents worked full time jobs and healthcare. So it wasn't like, they were doing that it was just their way of life of, yeah. But
My goal is to get people back there, you know, locally grown food, everybody growing their food locally,
that's
because
right.
that's the way forward. I mean, okay, now get back to how I got to this point.
Yes. How did you get into food forest design?
Um, I was doing my web development business, and I have a chance to work with all different types of businesses building
Yeah.
their websites, a lot of startup companies. And in 2015, a friend of mine down in Florida had he posted on Facebook a drawing of a greenhouse, and it was not your ordinary greenhouse. It was called a permaculture, and it
Oh,
never
yeah.
got to market. But as soon as I saw the thing, I'm like, this everything came back to me. About growing food, and hey, this I need to.
That's right.
Everybody needs one of these in their backyard. Well, it was a greenhouse that would fit in your average suburban backyard, and it had solar panels. It had a food dehydrator.
Oh my God.
It had a biodigester to make cooking fuel, had a chicken tractor that you could attach to the back and you move it around your yard.
He
And
needs
it
to
had,
bring that back.
yeah.
Put that back in the market.
And then 250-gallon water catchment tanks on the side. So you had the water catchment from the gutters on the greenhouse, and one catchment tank had tilapia for aquaponics. So,
Yeah.
and that was filtering all the nutrients inside the greenhouse for everything growing with the aquaponics system. And the other one was for potable water. And it had a filter system as it went in, and also for watering everything that was on the property.
Right.
And inside, had a seating station, and it just had, it was like
Like everything
greenhouse
you
on
needed.
steroids. Yeah. So you could be 100% off grid with this thing. And
Wow.
the moment I saw it, I'm like, hey, Jim, how the hell can I get involved with this?
Right.
And we started talking, and I happened to be going down to Orlando for a different company I was involved with in like a week after that. So I went down a day early, and he goes, we're building the prototype, so when you're down here, I'll take you to it. So I got down there a day early, got my rental car, drove to Jim's place, picked him up, and he took me to this thing, and it was amazing. The most
Wow.
amazing thing I've seen. And well, long story short, it cost way too much to manufacture. It was like
It's
25
like
grand.
over engineered for what anybody would.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like 25 grand just to get it made. So,
Wow.
and so when you tack on everything just so you can make money, it
Yeah. It's
outpriced us. So we went back to the drawing board with some different configurations, different styles, and then tried a franchise model. But the franchise model was too confusing, too much paperwork. Nobody wants a 350-page document to go
right.
through just to be part of something. So it's going to be back someday. COVID happens. So my friend Jim, he's out of business down in Florida. He had a little shop in a mall selling tabletop hydroponic systems and essential oils and all types of stuff. And he just said, hey, it's time. You know, you take care of you build the website, you handle the back end of the business, and I'll do what I can down here. So and in my career as a web development specialist, I also taught people about marketing and
Yeah.
social media. And one thing is making videos. And that was some of the hardest things for people to do, is to get in front of a camera and make videos, because they're
Yes.
shy. And I still have problems with it, like in the back of my mind, but I'm just like, F it, just do it, who
That's
cares?
right.
And
I
so
had
I'm
to
like,
take that attitude a year ago because
yeah,
Chandler's like, get in front of the camera. I'm like, no, I can't do it.
it's not easy all the time,
It's not.
but because you are your own worst enemy all the time.
That's right. We're judgy on it on ourselves.
Yeah. So I'm like, dude, you got to make one video on one subject per
Yeah.
day, until you get used to it, and then as you come up with ideas, make a video about it and post it. And I did this with another friend of mine that I grew up with, and my friend Jim. We met in high school through wrestling, so we knew each other for a long time. And a friend of mine, Ben, he's in Colorado now, did the same thing with him. He ended up doing over $1 million through his website. I
Well,
built his website, and he was in a network marketing space. And I'm like, make a video. What? Took me almost 2 years to get him to start making videos. But once he did, boom, everything just took off for him.
now you're
So,
making me I'm feeling inspired that I need to do videos for myself.
and it only takes one video to hit,
Yeah.
and before people start recognizing you, and before you know it, you got a lot of followers. And I'm like 5 people from hitting 1,000 subscribers. So I'll give you my YouTube channel at the end, people, and subscribe.
Absolutely.
So here we are. He asked me to build a website. So we start, he's walking around Orlando, Florida in his gated community, and they have some nice ornamental trees, nice green lawns, but there's no life in them. And like, what if all of these lawns had fruit trees and berry bushes and all types of food producing plants and flowers and
Right.
trees growing, it'd be like the Garden of Eden,
Right.
and no poisons, and because that's why all these lawns, they might look great, but there's no life in them because they've been sprayed with Roundup and glyphosate and all this garbage,
Right.
and it's killed all the life. So that was, let's transform lawns into food forests and edible landscapes, and it took off from there. So I am 5 years into this now, and I still do web development because I do all my own web design and development, my own social media. I do all my video editing,
Right.
everything. So looking to get some investors so I can hand a lot of that work off and
Right.
concentrate on the business part because that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's
What's been the most rewarding part?
putting a food forest in a family with young children, putting a food forest in their backyard, and knowing those kids are going to be able to walk out their back door at any day, any time of the day, and go pick all the different types of fruits and berries grown in their backyard or
Right.
all the vegetables. And those trees and berry bushes and everything come back every year. You don't have to
Right.
replant them.
And just the education of
Yes.
what's edible and what what you do put in your mouth and in your body. It's a part of it's part of the environment. It's nature, and I think there just becomes a full circle education about that
Yeah. And they
and the
learn,
appreciation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so they learn to be self-sufficient.
Yep.
And this was in a neighborhood with $750 million home.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were right on the corner. So it was, I got both sides of their house. So I got fruit trees going this way, or apple tree guilds on one side, and then like
I
20
bet that's
fruit
so
trees on
pretty.
the other side, and then different fruit tree guilds on the property, and 100-foot row of berry bushes of different types. So it'll be a big hedge going down. So instead of a fence along their neighbor's property, it's a row of berry bushes of all
Mm,
different types. And I don't know, there's a thing called a herb spiral. You can look those up, but I built two herb spirals in their yard so they can walk right down to the bottom of their stairs, and there's all the herbs you need for cooking right there.
right.
So snip them and go cook. But that is the most rewarding, is knowing that family is going to be, for years to come, there's going to be food everywhere.
Right.
And as I was putting this landscape together, installing it, all the neighbors out walking their dogs would stop and talk to me, and they were blown away. Like, what? Like, wow, I can't wait to see this. And, and people don't realize a food producing landscape can be more beautiful than your ornamentals.
That's right.
You know, if you ever seen a apricot tree bloom or a cherry tree bloom,
Well, they're
you know,
beautiful.
they're beautiful, and they'll smell up the entire neighborhood, and it smells amazing.
That's right.
And
That's
then
right.
you have fruit, you have food,
That's right.
and then all the wildlife that comes back to the property, and it does everything. It brings back life, and it feeds you. And all your excess you give away to your family and friends, or you can use your property to make money.
That's
It's
right.
so there's so many different ways, and capture water, and like you had off the grid solar. People, that's a great way to live.
That's right.
Your parents were
Yeah.
ahead of the game.
They were. I always said like they should have, you know, kept it going. We ended up moving and got more into like the urban, and we always kind of, I know my parents kind of, as they got older, they're like, why did we do that? Why did we?
Convenience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Convenience. And, it's just, uh, our society, sometimes the pressures and they were so ahead of the trends. And
yeah.
I
And
mean,
back in World War I and World War II, our government actually encouraged everyone to plant victory gardens on their properties, and there was I think, over 5 million gardens in the United States at that time, and over 2.5 million tons of locally grown food. And then after the wars, that's when Roundup and everything started coming around,
Right.
and
Monsanto and
Monsanto
yeah,
and
yeah,
Big Pharma, and yeah, so
that's right.
and they ruined everything from there.
Now I think the trend is coming back.
Yes, that's the goal is food forests everywhere.
Food forest ever. I like the food forest, like your backyard oasis.
And that's exactly what it is. Permaculture, we design using permaculture, which is
Yeah.
a design science. And basically what
Explain
that is,
to our listener. I know what permaculture it is. Like break that down.
it's
Um,
a design science that creates a sustainable human environment by mimicking natural ecosystems. Like, you're combining agriculture, ecology, and other disciplines to develop a self sustaining system, just like you'd see driving down the road. You see all the trees and everything on the side of the road. Nobody takes care of
right.
them but Mother Nature.
Right.
Well, I do that when I design a landscape. So you have everything planted working together synergistically, you could call it, and
Yeah,
everything because people don't realize that plants and trees and shrubs and they all communicate with each other and they
that's
all
right.
benefit each other. Some things you don't put together because
That's what I was saying.
they,
Like you want to put some things together and they feed off of each other, and others you want to not put together because yeah, they repel. But also how they um, pollinate each
yeah,
other, and some attract the right mosquitoes that will aid the garden, and others will repel the mosquitoes um, that you don't want around. If
exactly.
you
And
yeah,
there's other plants like one called comfrey. That is, I put that in every guild that I put in the ground because comfrey has a very, very long taproot that goes down 8 to 10 feet into the soil where your fruit trees and berry bushes, their root systems are shallow. They don't go very deep. So
right,
comfrey goes really deep and gets all those nutrients from the soil and all those minerals and brings it into its stems, its leaves, its flowers. And then once it's full grown, you chop it down. Other than it being a pollinator or attracting all your bumblebees and insects and everything,
right,
you chop it down and use it as mulch in your guilds, and that adds all the nutrient to the top of the soil. And it's fast growing. So you chop it,
right.
throw it in there, and a few months later, you chop it down again. So
So it's this whole ecosystem that
yes,
just
it's
keeps
life,
going.
the cycle of life.
What's been as starting this business and ramping it up? What's been the most challenging?
The most challenging. Wow, it's kind of a more than one thing,
Yeah, well,
but I get the one thing that sticks out for me is being asked to start a business with somebody, and then you have to be able to trust who you're getting a business with.
yep.
And
Co-founders, it's hard.
yes, and then what happens once the investment capital comes in? You gotta be able to trust your partner. And I ended up getting screwed out of that business, so I actually started all over again. But luckily, I have my web development background,
Right.
so I rebuilt
You had the marketing chops to be able to just go, you know what?
everything.
I know how to start this and start all over. But yeah, what would be the lessons learned of that came out of that, like, oh shit, of I thought I knew this person. I thought, was it just you didn't really know them? You didn't have paperwork. It's like
That
we've
that's
heard
one.
horror stories across the spectrum of, like, what would you have done differently if you could go back and rewind?
I would have had more an ironclad deal on paper. I mean, I still had equity, but you know what? Equity don't mean crap at
Right.
all. Especially, it just doesn't mean anything because you gotta. It's not worth anything if you're not going to get anything back for it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And to this day, I'm still trying to get my equity back out of that company, and it's been almost 5 years, and millions have gone into that company and nothing's come back, so
Mm,
it's never going to come.
yeah.
But one thing I did learn with building that company is how not to run a business, you know,
Right. Because
and
sometimes those are equally important of I don't call them failures. I just call them, you either have wins or you have lessons.
and it was a big lesson.
Yeah.
So trust the person you're getting into business with. But I built the company, so it was easy for me to build it again. And now all those people that got screwed over too, because a lot of people paid money to be part of that company, but their money went into the ground at this person's property or in his pocket instead
Right.
of where it was supposed to go into the business, back into the business. So now I have a bunch of people that are coming to me now because I rebuilt a business, and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm launching here soon.
Yeah.
And then, Food Forest Design Minnesota, so I'm scaling my business here, but all these install teams and designers all across the country are now going to be joining my network, which is called Food Forest Design Network. So I can design where you live, or any state in this
You can go
country,
anywhere if anybody needs it.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And I can design. I have designers now that are all over the country that they're even a lot more experienced than I am. Some have 30 years experience, and those are my mentors now. Plus, they get free work out of it, right?
Right.
So now I am going to be the sales and marketing company all across the country, and my installers and designers join my network, and I hand them work designs, and I hand them installs all over the
Right.
place. So we can
So it's
spread,
like Angie's list, but it's Travis' list.
and so to speak. And since I built this business from the ground up, I didn't have any mentors here in Minnesota how to run this business because I've never seen a business like this before. Is
Right.
design and installing food forests. So I put my own training system together on. I can take a regular landscaper or a plumber or anybody, and here's how you start your food forest install business. Here's how you register your business with the state. Here's your business checking account. Every little thing from the start all the way through training you on how to do installs, and then
I need to
if
give this to
you
Pat.
yeah. And then if you want to be a designer, a permaculture designer, there is permaculture design courses to learn that part of it. So, because
Nice.
it's a very addicting
Well,
career,
because it's
if you
it
call it.
was so tangible and so close to home. I mean, it's because everybody probably would at least want to try a portion of it or something. Like I just think it's so relatable for every household out there.
And not just households, businesses,
Yeah.
properties everywhere. I drive around when I'm driving and I see this
Do you
empty
like?
space.
There's a lot.
I'm like, you know what I could do with that space? Or every city has a library. They have your city libraries, your county libraries, you have a police station, you have a city hall. You have all these properties in every city, and all they have is green grass, and there's no life around them.
Didn't
And
think about that. That's actually
you,
pretty cool.
our tax dollars should be going to our cities and towns to benefit us, not
Right.
benefit their rich friends, and
Right.
all that stuff. Because once our tax money goes to these people, look what's happening now. We're finding out all our money's being drained.
Right.
So
Right.
instead of it needs to come back to the people that are
Right.
paying the taxes. So you put a
Well, and they're
tree
already
that
paying for landscapers and
yes,
they're paying for the equipment. Why not make it so it's giving back to the community where if you go to the library, not only do you get to have free resources there, but then you can go pick berries.
everything, yeah, everything. And
Like,
and what kind of problems does it solve? Food insecurity is gone. If you have
that's right.
food everywhere, nobody's going hungry. And
That's
if
right.
nobody's hungry, nobody's committing crimes. So your crime rate's going to go way down.
Yep.
Because people with
Yeah.
full bellies aren't committing crimes. They're not out robbing people to try to get merchandise or money to go feed
Right.
themselves. And, And
What's been the biggest aha moment for you during this journey of, was it just the realization of this really is a huge opportunity, the timing is right?
yeah, I mean, I go to the gym every single day. That's where I get my ideas. I de-stress. I work, it's winter time. I'm behind my
Right.
computer screen all
I
day.
know we were joking around like you're just going out and doing your cold plunge
Yeah.
and just going outside.
Yeah. And so all winter long, I'm behind my computer screen because this is my sales time to get my
Get everything
spring and
ready.
summer calendar, scheduled out for the summer. So I get my way to get out of the house is go to the gym. And so I eat healthy. Well, if you look at our food today, and like you were saying, you go to the outside parts of the grocery stores, well, only 20% of the food in a grocery store is actually real food.
Yeah.
Everything else is processed or ultra processed. That stuff wasn't around when I was a kid, most of it. Or if it was made with real ingredients. It wasn't made with this fake garbage that they have,
That's
you
right.
know? And even our fruits and vegetables in our stores,
You got to be real careful where that comes from, just the
yeah, because it could
same.
be coming from overseas
Yep.
or 1,500, 1,800 miles away. And it's picked early before it's ripe and it's sprayed with a chemical. I
Right.
don't care what they say. Oh, it's safe. Oh,
It
crap.
is.
It's not.
You better wash those berries.
Because I know the companies doing the studies where companies started by the company that makes the poison, right?
That's right.
So
That's
they
right.
get the results they want.
Well, it's no accident that what pharmaceutical company owns the pesticide companies.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bayer,
There's
Bayer
no accident.
Monsanto. We get you sick so we can fix you.
Right.
What this
Right.
is the one. What company has made pharmaceuticals for 150 years and hasn't cured one person? Right?
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Or let's see what Nestle spends more money in lobbying to make
For
sure
free
that
water.
that water is not considered a human right.
Yeah, yeah. We get it free and we're going to sell it back to you.
That's right. So yes.
But yeah, that's so yeah,
And no paid maternity leaves because they want that, because they know if they get women back into the workforce, they will be forced to use formula. So
yeah.
those are the
Oh
two
yeah, for
things that
sure.
they lobby for. Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy? Yeah.
and
I'm
that's
looking
full
at
of
Chandler.
chemicals too.
I know.
Poor little babies getting this garbage. Instead of
Right.
their mother's milk.
Right.
But all of the food.
Go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, I was
No,
going to say, or goat's milk. If you can't
yeah.
produce milk, goat's milk is actually more kinder to and most closest to a mother's breast milk
See, I'm
than
glad you
cow's
said that
milk.
because I didn't know that part. I knew
Yeah.
it was good, but I didn't know it was
Yeah. I was,
that close to mother's milk.
I have 4 kids. I breastfed 2 and I couldn't produce enough on the other 2. My body just was ever probably in shock. I was older and it rejected. But, I was like, ooh, I knew cow's milk was not better. So I transitioned when I was like, a farmer was like, no, goat's milk is actually the most gentle. And that's why I like a lot of raw diets, if you're into
Hmm.
any of that. And that's why feta cheese, unpasteurized feta cheese fits raw diets. And it's the only cheese that's allowed, like in one of those, because I don't know what all that, but goat's milk is thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of this, the food system and the food the only choice we have
Right.
is what you get in your stores unless you grow it yourself. So now the whole thing to me is we need food forests everywhere. When we bring food locally and start growing it locally in our yards, our communities, our public spaces, we cut out the poison producers.
Yeah.
We
Well, you know where it
everybody's
comes from.
yeah,
You minimize the carbon footprint, packaging, the plastics, the transportation, the fuel that gets there. And you're in control. You know exactly where it is. That's what's like our rules in the grocery store is just go. Like if you need to go to the grocery store, you don't go to the inner rings unless you absolutely have to.
yes.
Go to the
You know,
the
and
outer
also
rings.
Yeah, and there's no chemicals. Well, I will never put a synthetic fertilizer or any amendment in the soil that's not natural. That is, no poisons, no chemicals, no herbicides, pesticides. So health is going to improve everywhere. Everybody's
That's
health.
right.
This food you're getting in the store, your produce, there's no nutritional value left in that. They're picking it a month early. And the moment you pick that off the vine or out the tree, it's dead. There's no life going to it anymore. So it's losing every minute, every second it's off of that vine or tree or plant, it's losing its nutritional value. But
Yeah.
when you have food locally in your
Right
backyard,
there, right
you
there in your
pick it
backyard.
when you need it. So
That's
you're
right.
getting all the nutritional value. And, so we're solving all these problems by bringing food back.
That's
And
right. The
food,
homestead, food,
yeah,
the food forest, your backyard oasis. Travis, would you, what would you be doing if you had no fears? Would you be doing this? Like if you had, and you don't look like a guy that has a lot of fears, but I'm just saying like no money worries, or if you like just no fears whatsoever, would you be doing this still, or would you be doing something else?
no, this I would, because my plan is in the next year or two is to get 100 to 200 acres and build it out as a huge educational permaculture farm to teach people, to show people why it's the next logical step in humanity, and also teach people how to be self-sufficient and grow food. But also, I want to create a off-grid community of tiny homes, and people can come and live in a food forest. Everything's provided by the property and sell homestead lots. So an entire homestead community where everything is provided by the property, food, water, energy, and just the most beautiful place you could ever live. And also, I'm going to put a fitness center, a wellness center on the
Yeah.
property. So I don't have to drive an hour to the gym every day. I'll
There,
have one.
just have it all there. So is this like the big vision for your business where you're going? Are we
Yes,
manifesting this right now?
this is, yes. And I actually have been starting to draw up my plan, my visual plan for the property, and then working on a business plan so I can attract a wealthy investor to get this done.
Yeah. So so if we met a year from now, would we be celebrating the groundbreaking, or is there something else that we'd be celebrating a year from now?
We're going to be celebrating the groundbreaking. That's
Ground.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
All right.
Uh,
We're putting it out there right now.
yeah, and,
Manifest it away.
yeah, and that is my vision, and that will also allow me to have my own nursery on my property. So all the trees, everything I'm putting into my landscapes here in Minnesota, I will be able to actually grow everything on the property. And then I'm not searching for it at all the nurseries around town, trying to find this
Yeah.
tree or that tree. And everything will
You're
be
just
provided by the property itself, which will save my steward's money. It'll
right.
save the homeowner
Travis
money,
list, all of your network.
and everything. And that's just nature provides it all.
That's right. All right. So if you could sum up your entrepreneurial journey in just one word, what word would that be?
Sustainability.
Yeah. It's a good word. All right. And if we had to look ahead to the next chapter, what word defines that next chapter?
Resilience.
There you go. Sustainability and resilience. You got it. You got this. Your journey is on fire. What's the best piece of advice that you've received from another founder, another business owner that you really took to heart that you could share with our listeners?
Wow. I mean, other than finding people that you trust to work with, find people that are like-minded, that have the same goals and mission as you do, is just don't give up. I mean, you're going to get kicked in the teeth every day,
That's
you know,
right.
but like I listen to music when I'm working out, and sometimes I listen to motivational, heavy hitting music for working out, but it has motivational messages in it.
Yeah.
And what is it? You might fail 1,000 times, but
You just,
you're learning 1,000 different ways not to do something.
that's right. You just keep going.
Yeah,
Just keep moving forward. I think that's what make founders special and entrepreneurs. We're a unique breed that way of we just keep going. We have a
don't let your ego get in the way and think you are more than what you really are,
that's a good piece of advice.
because I noticed that, when I built that other business, you can't think you are better than your business and everybody that is working with you.
Yeah.
Once you put yourself above the business, you're done. No one's gonna trust you anymore because it's not about your mission anymore. They make
Right.
it about themselves instead.
That's right. You've lost the brand.
Yeah,
Right.
you've lost the mission.
That's right.
Because permaculture is a certain earth care, people care, fair share.
That's
And without that, you lost.
right.
You're gonna
Exactly.
wither. Your plants are gonna wither and die.
Yeah. You need to treat yourself and your business the same way you would
Yes,
a plant that you have in your yard. You got to nurture it. You got to soil it. You got to treat it nice, water it, trim it when you need to. It
yes,
is, and we need to do that as ourselves, as kind of like check ourselves as the owner and founder to make sure that are we still on point? Like, am I getting it the right sunshine?
exactly. There's all
Yeah,
those different factors that come in.
that's
Just like
right.
designing a property, you have everything, and you gotta make sure you're giving them all the same attention.
That's right. That's right. Well, this has been fantastic. I can't believe how fast these conversations go. Before we go, how do you want people to get a hold of you, learn more about what you're doing, support you in any way? Travis, give us all of your stuff.
All right. If you are looking to design your property, like I said, I can design anywhere in this country. Okay. I have designers everywhere. We can do it virtually, or else someone could be on site at your property. You can find me at foodforestdesignminnesota.com, and that is Minnesota spelled out or abbreviated mn.com. Both of them. They both go to me. And you can find me on YouTube at the same, Food Forest Design Minnesota. I'm just about hitting 400 videos on there.
I'm going to watch some of those. We're going to make your 5,000 subscribers.
I'd love to hit 5,000.
Let's go.
Yeah, and then same on Facebook and Instagram. And then on LinkedIn, it's just Travis Holzem. And also, if anyone might not be interested in getting a food forest, but if you're interested in what I do, I have an affiliate program on my website. You can sign up and you can spread my message, spread my mission. And when somebody comes to me and buys a design service, my design services, you'll get a commission off of it. So, everybody wins. You help spread my message and you make a commission. It's, everybody wins.
It's like our own sustainable food forest
Yeah.
ecosystem. That's right. Let's make it happen. Thank you, Travis. This was a fantastic conversation. I loved hearing about your journey and your background and what you're doing. I think it's really important and certainly a trend that is. I think we're just starting to
Yes.
see the beginning of it. It's not even nowhere near a peak yet.
Every podcast I get on, and every host is like, "Wow, I love this."
Yeah.
And a lot of them have never gardened or done anything like that
Yeah.
before. So
Well,
it's just nice to be able to reach people that have no clue, that
that's right.
hear about it and then they're like, wow, yes, this is the way forward.
I think that's what this will do, and especially our community of other founders and stuff. I think the affiliate, and or just like, ooh, this is a cool business idea. Let me spread this word. So I think this was fantastic.
Wealthy listeners out there,
Here,
I'm looking for an investor
that's right.
to scale this business. So hit me up.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, and we'll tag everything for you when we publish the episode. So, thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening or watching us, thank you for joining us today. And this podcast, of course, is available on your favorite podcast platform. So subscribe to Hello Chaos. Give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Share this great content and help us build a more connected entrepreneurial community. HelloCast is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That is Orange Whip, WIP for work in progress, because that's what we all are. Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. We've designed hyperlocal media platforms to inform, inspire, and be the independent connective tissue between founders and their local entrepreneurial We're in 3 South Carolina markets today, looking to expand to other markets in the coming year. Our innovative digital zines are an all-in-one content hub. We tell fresh and engaging stories, much like Travis's. We curate local calendars, so the local events, the incubator and accelerator signups, the grant opportunities, all those are curated into one event calendar. We also do local dynamic roadmaps of all the resources that are pretty much free for all entrepreneurs and founders in a market. We do that in an easy to navigate resource directory. So again, we take all the hard work out for the founders, and they go to one trusted source to find the information they need. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or support us, send us an email to hello@orangewhip.com. Thank you for tuning in to Hello Chaos. It is where AHA meets oh shit, and we will see you again next week.